This is the knowledge circle of humanity. Until 101 years ago, until 1924, all the knowledge by accumulated humanity over 200,000 years fit into a circle like this. From the most ordinary people to the most intelligent, everything that everyone knew was inside this. But today's knowledge accumulation is such a circle. It's actually much bigger, but I did something like this to fit it on the screen. The people in this range have struggled, and expanded the knowledge circle like this. For example, someone struggled and discovered DNA around here. Then someone else struggled, and invented World Wide Web, starting the internet age. With all these efforts, humanity's knowledge accumulation continues to expand. So what's over there? Someone will continue to struggle to expand humanity's knowledge accumulation, and what will they discover there? And why is it important to discover it? Some things maybe is not so important to you or me, but for some people that information may be critically important. For example, there is someone who has prepared a similar infographic to the ones that I will show you during this video and has written a book out of them. His name is Matt. Under this question mark lies the information Matt is looking for. This is the knowledge he needs to save his son from a deadly disease. Unfortunately, Matt's child suffers from an extremely rare and genetic disease. But Matt is a scientist and he believes that maybe he can save his son with the new knowledge he will discover. He has to struggle for this, but he doesn't even know how much struggling is needed. I wonder how much the knowledge circle of humanity will expand to include that question mark. He didn't know that. So do you think Matt will be able to save his son? It's not enough to just struggle for what's right. Sometimes people struggled, but can't do it. But some people do it without even struggling. And it's frustrating, right? But I'll explain the secret behind it in a moment. As we learn, our knowledge gradually increases. This was our knowledge in elementary school. It contains some essential skills like addition, multiplication, reading letters, etc. But remember those days, how difficult it was to memorize the multiplication table, right? So every step in expanding the circle requires effort. However, once it expands, everything in the past starts to seem so simple, right? If they ask me now, I will say learning multiplication table is very easy. And that's exactly where the first problem arises. The issue is not just about size of the circle. It's also about its center. Because we all take the different paths in life and learn different things. If this is my circle, this is my friend's one, and this is someone else's circle. Because my friend has been drawing since childhood, and I have been focused on scientific research. Even if we both know the same amount of information, we know completely different things. Yet we both take the same university entrance exam. Although there are a lot of people like us, but the exam is only one measure. If the exam is biased towards my friend's knowledge, he will score higher than me. This is exactly the secret to his success. Despite working less, he still succeeds. But if we were in a different country or somewhere else, we would measure different things and get different results. I have known some people who were unsuccessful in one place and had to leave, only to find great success elsewhere. Because they have been told they were unsuccessful all their lives. This is one of the first things we need to learn, understanding who we are and being able to choose paths accordingly. We can't blame a fish for not being able to fly, right? We need to take it and put it in seas where it can swim freely. Okay, we move the center of our circle to a place where we will be free. We also get the knowledge, but it's not enough. Sometimes expanding that circle is actually a problem. This was exactly what happened to Matt. This brings me to my second piece of advice. Work like a scientist. Yes, really, if you learn how to work like a scientist, I can almost guarantee that many of your problems will start to resolve themselves. Matt needs to reach this point to save his child. First, he learned which side of the circle he needs to expand. It's a genetic disease, right? Now he needs to progress in that specific direction. So science is like this. After graduation from bachelor, during a master's degree, you start pushing the boundaries of the knowledge circle from one end. and in a PhD, you finally reach the limits of human knowledge. At that point, every scientific discovery you make creates a tiny notch in the boundary of the circle. As others continue doing the same, the circle gradually expands. So, when you do this, there is no the answer key that you can check the results with, because it's information that has never been obtained and therefore no one knows. But also you need to be sure if it's right. And this requires intellectual self-confidence. I think this is what some exam systems take away from us. Take a test, check the answer as soon as you solve the question. No, treat the questions as if you are doing science. Do you think you found the answer? Convince yourself and others this is the answer. Don't wait for others' answer key to confirm you. The responsibility of knowing truth saves you from mistakes you make that you overlook. Because at the end of the day, it's about saving your child, saving a human life. And in such a situation, there is no room for mistakes. The important thing here is mindset. Work as if you are doing science. Try to make sure that you find something that will save someone's life. This circle is constantly expanding. In the 1900s and earlier, scientists could be astronomers, biologists, chemists, etc. and make major discoveries in every field in their 20s. Now, to make even a small contribution in a certain field, you have to study until you are in your 30s. And it's gonna be even harder in the future. The situation seems to make us panic a little bit, right? We start losing time in a panic. And this is one of the challenges we face. Anxiety. And that brings us to the third lesson. Managing time calmly. Sometimes the workload from studying or research feels overwhelming. So when there is so much to learn and study, it's not always possible to plan your time effectively. Sometimes, for example, our brains just can't take it all in. You need to clear your head. Maybe take an hour-long walk and then get back to work. But maybe you also need that 1 hour to study. In this case, while wondering to memorize or try to understand basics of the subject, you can find yourself panicking and memorizing things. And this tells us another story. That the size of the circle is not actually constant. As we learn something, we expand it, okay? But not all of the information is permanent. Sometimes the circle can narrow down. Especially when learning something, if we just sit and memorize it in one night, that's a problem. Maybe we can be successful that day, but the next day, we will lose the progress. Our circle will shrink. And in fact, the path we need to take to the next step will get longer. We will have to take the same path again, and this is not productive at all. Scientific studies show that studying for 1 hour for 10 days is more productive than studying for 10 hours in one day. Now question is, understanding or memorizing? Of course understanding, but sometimes memorizing is also necessary. Even there are some areas where memorization is inevitable. Remembering things gives us speed. In fact, the real problem starts when you try to memorize a subject at a time. What skills such as logic and critical thinking need to be used? Remember, there was information that Matt needed to save his child, right? But Matt didn't know where this information was. He needed to turn himself in a certain direction. To move in the right direction, he needed knowledge accumulation, memorization, and also critical thinking. Even if he finds this way, he cannot move in that direction just by memorizing, because after a while, he will start to lose progress. You should understand the reason behind the problem. This move prevents your circle from narrowing, so it's very difficult to narrow it now. And that's our last lesson. Understanding is as important as memorization. One of them is not important than the other. Both are important at the right time. Both are more effective when you work as if you are doing science. And beyond all of that, understanding who you are and acting accordingly. Finding your own axis and working towards it. Should I tell you something? Matt struggled, and succeeded. It was found that his child had a mutation in the NGLY1 gene, which caused an enzyme deficiency. There was no one else in the world with the deficiency of this enzyme, and this knowledge saved Matt's child's life. And the humanity's cumulative knowledge circle has expanded a bit more. Maybe the same knowledge will save your grandchildren's life. With hard work, determination, and scientific perspective, we can achieve even things that seem impossible. Because the diameter of this knowledge circle can grow infinitely. Each of us can make notches in this circle by conducting research in our own field, discovering new knowledge, and sharing this knowledge with others. We can contribute to the progress of humanity.